Reynolds is here, are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Not so
You know
bad.
where I'm back from?
Where are you back from?
The big wedding.
Do you know, I did say earlier, I thought you were between trips, so it's Venice, and then next week Costa Rica, is that right?
No, next month.
Next month, Costa
You
Rica.
didn't see the video of me and
and Jeff?
Oprah and Jeff and I? No.
I didn't,
No.
No. Where did
no,
you
no,
manage
no.
to stay in Venice? Because it must have been pretty packed.
We didn't
right?
have a place to stay. We were staying on a canoe. We were sitting on the Grand Canal.
Gondolas, they're called.
Yeah, I didn't even get a gondola. I got a canoe. So,
Excellent. So, how was it for you?
It was good. I don't think they got the gift I sent.
Right.
I sent it by Amazon, so who knows when it'll arrive. So there we go.
Yes, the Venice wedding extravaganza between Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. There was a lot of controversy about it, wasn't there? But ultimately, the city done good, made a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, from what we're reading, 68% of the city's annual tourism turnover
In one weekend?
In one weekend, they made that much money. So you can only complain so much, and I understand that. The city is, for anybody who's ever been there, the city is overrun all the time with
It is,
with
with
tourists.
tourists, yeah.
I mean,
This weekend it was just overrun with
yes,
Kardashians.
a little bit too much.
Kardashians on
There's
every
so
corner.
many Kardashians. So many. There was Melvin, Steve, Arnold, and Phil. You probably don't hear about them very much.
You dare not.
No,
you
you
don't
do
see
not.
them very often.
No,
you
no,
don't.
the unknown Kardashians.
But anybody who was anybody was there,
Yep.
which is why our U.S. correspondent Rich Reynolds was there in a slightly better coat than Usher, who must have been really hot, really warm in
Oh
that
my
big long
God.
blue coat.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
what was he wearing?
I know. Yeah. Fashion
All right.
statement. Fashion statement. Okay, let's move on from the wedding of the weekend and let's talk about the beautiful bill. Depending on who you are, depends on what you call it, because Muskie calls it one thing, Trump calls it another.
I know. So today they're going to start.
They are 3 o'clock.
They're going to be
our time.
at 3:00. They're going to be.
it's
They've
underway.
already started debating it, and the way it works now is that anybody who wants to talk about the bill can come up to the front of the room and talk about the bill, and they can talk for an unlimited amount of time. And the Democratic Party right now is saying they want the entire bill read verbatim. And the bill is over 1,000 pages.
940 page bill?
940,
Yeah.
right. So I knew it was around 1,000. So
Yeah.
that's what they're going to do. So then they begin to debate in a thing called a vote-a-rama, which is really...
I didn't think it was going to be called that, but
No.
I was quite surprised. But it actually is officially what it's called.
It is
Vote-a-rama.
a little bit of a clunky name, but they're going to be going through this whole thing. The one thing I don't understand is the Republicans are out there saying, hey, this will save everybody money, when in fact the bill does not.
It's 3.3 trillion. It's adding to
Right.
the U.S. debt.
It's adding quite a bit to the U.S.
It's a lot more for the Chinese to take on.
I
isn't it?
know. They're taking all the money. And so they're, what it also means is that 11.8 more Americans, they're going to be uninsured in the next 9 years if the bill becomes law. And that's an increase over the amount that the House passed version of the bill, which was going to be 10.9 million. So every time somebody votes on this, more people are going to lose their insurance. And somehow, I don't quite understand it, because these are all people who, I won't say all people, a lot of these people voted for Trump. They're going to lose their insurance. They're going to lose their insurance. They're going to lose health care. Many of them, unfortunately, are probably going to die because of this thing. But in the meantime, the people who are in the top 1%, they're going to be getting more tax breaks. I don't think somebody who makes $100 million a year is really going to see an $11,000 tax break. I don't think they need that. I mean, I don't have that sort of
Ultimately, it's
money.
doing what we've been seeing in recent
Yes.
years, not just in the United States, but those with the most are keeping more.
Yeah.
And those with the least are losing more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people understand that. This has been debated even by people who are not from the U.S. They've been hearing about this thing, but now, as they say, the rubber meets the road, and we're going to see what happens with these people who are scared to death of Trump, that he's going to be pulling funding for their state or somehow lashing out at them if they don't vote for this bill. But clearly the bill is not well thought out. It's what Trump has wanted to do for a long time, but he's not going to feel the repercussions from
No,
this.
absolutely.
He's not going to lose any health care. He's not going to lose that, nor any of his friends, because everybody in the States who thinks, oh, well, Trump is just like us. He's not like you.
Well, I imagine that nobody who's going to be voting on this bill is going to really lose out either, are they?
Right, no.
So why were the New York Times calling it a bill with plenty to hate?
Well, they were saying that because once you break it down, once you look at every single element in the bill, you're going to hate what you see. In other words, the reduction in Medicaid, the reduction in Medicare, the people who are losing, who have the least to lose are going to be losing the most. But the reason they hate it is because as much as Trump tries to spin this thing and say, oh, well, can't you see the country's going to be a lot better off to that. The minute you dig down and look at that,
me and my mates are going to be a lot better off, basically.
Right. That's right.
Buddies, sorry.
Yeah. But in this particular case, the more you dig down and take a look at it, the more there is that is harmful to the U.S. economy. And once it goes into law, I mean, you're stuck with it for a couple of years.
All right.
So,
he's been making some big false claims about the domestic policy bill, and what have they been calling him out on?
well, he said that Medicaid is going to be left the same in the bill, and clearly it's not. Medicaid, which as we've talked about in the past, Medicaid is a service that applies to people who are less fortunate, who have less health care, who are handicapped and that sort of thing. And so those people are going to be really, really hurt by this whole thing because this new bill says that a lot of those people have to go back to work. So in other words, if you've been on disability and you've had something that because I have family members who are on disability, if you have you're unable to earn a living, they're going to try to find some way to get you to go to work in a call center or to work at McDonald's or something like that. And it's absolutely going to be very, very, very destructive.
Well, I don't think anybody would argue that somebody who's willing and able to work should be able to work.
Right. I would agree with that. But there are a lot of people who have other reasons for not doing that.
But he made these sweeping statements, things like no tax on Social Security for our seniors. Well, it's hogwash.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's absolutely false there.
That's right. Mainly the main problem is that the changes would reduce the federal support for Medicaid by $800 billion over a decade. As far as Social Security, you're right. He says no tax on Social Security. But the fact is that the bill would temporarily beef up seniors' standard deduction, but it would not completely eliminate taxes on Social Security benefits. I personally would love it if there were no tax on Social Security.
But then he goes on to say, if the bill doesn't pass, there'll be a 68% tax increase.
Yeah, and
that's also complete hogwash.
Of course, and he's trying to throw people into a panic over this thing. And the fact is that he's wrong, and that he's glancing over everything with just tar paper, and what's happening here is
that's entirely people don't believe him when he says that they've eradicated the nuclear threat from Iran, for goodness sake.
No, there's no basis for the claim that the passing the bill is going to result in a 68% tax. There's no worry about it. But it is, the bad thing about these bills is they've got so much stuff folded into them that even if you object to one thing, the pressure is coming down from him that you've got to pass this thing. That's why out of the 53 senators, 3 of them, are voting against it, and one of them just resigned.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later.
We're not going to go again. Yeah, we will. Right. But you see this in other countries as well, where they wrap things into bills to get them through because the opposition wouldn't put it through otherwise, and they want to get some other stuff through, and it gets tied up in this other bill. It's happened in Spain here quite a bit in recent years. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying sadly when people play politics, that does kind of happen. So how long do we reckon if they're going to read through it? It's going to be debated and
a couple of days.
A couple of days.
Yeah, I don't think and he'd like to have it all approved by July 4th. And the fact of the matter is,
he wants to sign it on July the 4th. Some kind of anniversary then. I think.
I guess, but but the fact of the matter is that 99% of the time when a president proposes a bill, it gets passed with very few changes. And the expectation is that this is going to pass. It may not pass on the 4th, but it's probably going to pass. And people are going to lose health care and people are going to lose money. And he and his friends are going to turn out a little bit better. The big question is what happens in 2026 and in 2028 when there's another presidential election. Are people going to remember this when they look around and they go, hey, wait a minute, I lost my health care. Do I still like this guy?
Well, he's hoping to do it long enough ahead of the midterms, but I think people don't have, that'll still be within memory of once the midterms come up, won't it? I mean, you do, like I said, this is not something that isn't happening in other parts of the world. We have people in Britain who are set to lose benefits that they rely on as well, who probably, couldn't or shouldn't really be losing them. All right, on the way then, we'll go to the G7, talk about higher taxes for US and UK companies. A deal with Canada, which wasn't on the cards on Friday, may well be on the cards again from today. And then, who else is an ICE officer these days? Plenty of other people seem to be impersonating ICE officers, even alligators. Our US correspondent Rich Reynolds with us this afternoon. Seemed like a long, long time ago that the G7 was happening because always so much happens.
What was it, like 2 weeks ago?
In between, doesn't it? It seems like it, yeah.
But now they're all kissing up and making better, aren't they?
The US and the group of 7 nations agreeing to support a proposal that would exempt US companies from some components of an existing global agreement. Apparently, according to a report on Saturday. What do they call this? A side-by-side system.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like they've been negotiating for a couple of months or so, they say, and at least they all want to work things out because that constant threat of, well, if you don't do this, then I'm going to tax you another 25%, and it was exhausting for us, and I can't even imagine being these countries. Look at, and we're going to talk about it in a few seconds, but look at what Canada is going through, and my God, and Canada never hurt anybody. I mean, they. So
nicest people on the planet.
They are awfully nice. I tell you, who doesn't love a good Canadian? So anyhow, what's happening here, though, this measure was facing strong opposition from a lot of corporate lobbyists, and they said that that could have increased tax rates on foreign companies as much as 20 percentage points over time, but looks like that's going to go away. And so, as I said, cooler heads are prevailing in the G7, which is always a good thing.
It certainly is. Yeah.
I don't know.
So too, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he said trade talks have resumed after Canada rescinded the tech tax, because that was what Trump said on Friday, wasn't it? If you're going to go with this tax on tech, you can forget it. Of course, he's still talking about fentanyl smuggling. Right?
Well, Trump was also, threatening Canada with tax on steel, on timber, that sort of thing, and then he figured he had the upper hand, and Carney had nothing to play because outside of those two things, most of the things crossing the border are American products. And then Carney turned around and said, "Well, you know what? We're going to tax you on basically on the digital platform." And Trump went, "What? You can't do that." Well, let's negotiate. And now it looks like again, cooler
another case of taco.
Yeah, a taco, exactly.
I've been hearing lots of people quoting that Trump always chickens out, but it does. But it's good for both countries. Surely a deal's better than no deal, right?
Yeah, but I think we get tired. Americans are frankly exhausted. And I think people who are not American are tired of the constant threats. If you do this, I'm going to do this, and also the phrases things like you've never seen before, and this is the worst thing you've ever done, and blah blah blah, and it just kind of wears you out, and you wonder, when is this nonsense going to stop?
Well, the threats are continuing. There's a lot of threats in everything that we were looking at this week.
Yeah, there are a lot of
and it's always the same terminologies. It's the same vocabulary, isn't it?
Yeah. So this just to go back just a half a step here. This digital services tax that Canada was going to enforce,
a direct and blatant attack on our country.
Yeah, it involved Amazon, Google, and Meta, with a 3% levy on revenue from Canadian users. But they already figured out what the amount was. It was going to add retroactively. It was going to leave the U.S. companies with a $2 billion bill at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And, well, due to the fact that Trump is now best friends with Zuckerberg and with Bezos and the people at Alphabet, apparently somebody was whispering his ear, get this thing worked out. which they did. So.
So, like
Yeah,
I said, positive for both countries.
Again, as you said, lots of threats this week.
Lots of threats. Let's look at the whole ICE situation. Let's go
boy.
first with the headline that in America we've been seeing a spate of arrests of civilians who've been impersonating ICE officers who quite often showing up in plain clothes, right?
Yeah, this one story has police in Southern California, or they arrested a man suspected of posing as an ICE officer. And it's just the latest in a whole series of arrests. As they were masked plainclothesmen. As those of you that have seen all the video, it's the ICE officers go around with masks over their face, so nobody really knows. But
so Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
That's right. For those of people living in under a bridge, and in California, they found a guy who named Diaz who was impersonating an immigration agent at a news conference, and he denied to NBC News that he was the guy, that he was posing as an officer, and they had video of him doing this, and they found papers and that sort of thing. But this is happening all over the country. It's happening they found one in Philadelphia, they found one in Texas, and so it's really easy if you have a black outfit and you get somebody to print the word ICE on the back, and you can get a mask and a hat. Why you want to go around and arrest people? I don't know. It's like, Cal, I know this was your job at one time, but you gave it up, which was nice.
Never worked for ICE.
Putting never with ICE. I do like some good ICE though, but just not if it's arresting me.
Yeah, they've been involved in quite a lot of stories again this week. Not least the headline where ICE arrests of U.S. military veterans and their relatives are on the rise. Really?
Yeah, there's a story going around about the son of an American citizen and a military veteran who has no citizenship to any country because they're Army brats. They've lived on bases the whole time.
Moved around the whole
They
lives.
moved around.
I know how that works.
You certainly do. And there are a lot of people who have done that. And Trump right now has a vendetta against those I wouldn't say those kind of people, those people that he is chasing down people who don't have any sort of roots in the U.S. They're not.
So, Thomas was born on a U.S. Army base in Germany to an American citizen father who was originally born in Jamaica and is now dead. Thomas doesn't have U.S., German, or Jamaican citizenship, but ICE deported him to Jamaica anyway. He's never been there before.
Well, in a lot of months, a lot of veterans, family members, have been increasingly detained by immigration officials as the administration is pushing for mass deportations. There was one U.S. Marine veteran during an interview on CNN said he felt betrayed, and I don't blame him. This is a terrible, terrible thing because to be targeting people who are soldiers who have served this country, I know of quite a few people who are in the country illegally, but joined the service. They were in the Army, and
How do you join the American Army if you don't have any papers?
I don't
understand that.
No, I am not a veteran. I don't. My dad was a veteran, but I was not a veteran. But I don't know. But there are plenty of Americans who were children of immigrants.
Certainly that I understand.
Children of immigrants, and they served with distinction, and now. The Trump administration is going after those people, and I just think that going after veterans is a real slippery slope, and it's really, just the optics are really, really bad.
They really are.
Not that he cares, these are people who ought to be honored for their service and not chased down.
Those sort of things don't seem to bother Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
Now, a story that we did have last week we didn't get to was Alligator Alcatraz. This is an immigration detention center that's going to be set in Florida. Can you imagine? Nobody wants to escape into the Everglades, right?
No.
So that's the idea.
I don't.
Yeah,
you might.
That's the idea. However, the Department of Homeland Security, there's no need for this sort of thing, taunted detained migrants with an AI-generated meme depicting alligators guarding a proposed Florida prison with what critics called a horrendous lack of humanity. Alligators with ice caps on. I mean, actual baseball caps.
I've just ordered mine. I haven't received it yet because it's coming by Amazon, and things are slow because of the wedding. But no, I did not order a cab. Don't send me an email or anything about that. But some of you may have seen the meme on Instagram or on Facebook.
But it's
of
on the Homeland
alligators.
Security
Is
website.
It is on there. It is on their
I
website.
can see this going viral
Yeah.
just on some random site, but on the Homeland Security website.
Well,
really?
this alligator, for those people who haven't heard, this alligator Alcatraz it's an abandoned airstrip that's in the middle of the Everglades, which, as most people know, is completely surrounded by alligators and all sorts of
things you wouldn't want to get involved.
Things
with.
you don't want to get involved with, and so what they're planning on doing, in addition to the fact that it's ridiculously hot and humid down there, this is a big slab of cement. This is not. It's not like there's a Holiday Inn or a Four Seasons on the property. What the government is doing. They've already started shipping in tents and temporary housing to put detainees in these what can you call them, in these facilities, and the fact that there's probably no escape from it. You wouldn't want to go through any of that water, to save your life. So it's a little bit inhumane, but you're right. The alligator, the T-shirts, the baseball caps.
I was going to say, in addition to that being posted, state Republicans have been selling alligator Alcatraz T-shirts, baseball caps, and beverage coolers from $15 to $30 on their website. It's very unsavory, I'm afraid.
It is, and
it might be funny on the face of it, but for it to come from the Homeland Security and for Republicans to be state Republicans to be selling those on their official channels,
it's it's one of those things where you look at it and you just say, not cool, man. Mm-hmm. It's just not cool to do that, and there are a lot of estimates about how many people are being detained right now, but the latest estimates we've seen are 56,397 people who are currently jailed as immigrant detention around the country, and a lot of those people.
It's like an all-time record, almost.
It's an all-time record. Yay, world champions! So what they're looking to do is stick a lot of those people in Alligator Alley, and no matter how much people are complaining about it, or Democrats are complaining about it, they're going ahead with it. It's like everything else that Trump does. He does it, and then he asks permission later.
If only there was a court that could stop him, but there doesn't seem to be. There doesn't seem to be.
No,
Tell us about the Supreme Court's birthright citizenship ruling.
Well, they're still talking about that, and right now, because the court is so conservative, and by a 6-3 majority, right now, this past week, the court gave Trump a major win on Friday, ruling that a single judge cannot block a presidential order from taking effect nationwide, which was something a lot of Democrats and a lot of people on the left were hoping at a certain point. The minute Trump does something that is unsavory, a single high-level court can step in and go, hey, you can't do that. I'm going to put a halt to that, at least temporarily. Right now, the Supreme Court says, yeah, you can't do that. And now the court has adjourned for the summer. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing they can do till the first Monday in October.
So, yeah, he can pass anything he wants.
So he can pass anything he wants, and that power is becoming, I don't want to say unlimited, but it's going to become harder and harder to stop this guy from getting what he wants.
It's looking kind of worrying. There was another story on that, actually, wasn't there? But we haven't got time to go to all of them today. On the way, Iran's nuclear enrichment will never stop, according to Iran's UN ambassador. Also, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda signing a U.S.-brokered peace deal. And then we'll take a look back. We mentioned Senator Tom Tillis earlier on. We'll talk about that as well with our US correspondent, Rich Reynolds. Holla Back Girl 05 in the chart in the United States in June. Our US correspondent, Rich Reynolds. That's not one you played on air.
No, I've never heard that one.
But we have Van Halen from 95 to finish. I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
Right, so on to the final run of stories then this afternoon. After the ice alligators and the Supreme Court, Iran's nuclear enrichment will never stop. Well, they say one thing, we say another thing, and we don't know really what went down.
Well, Trump says, hey, we've completely obliterated the Iran nuclear capabilities, and Iran turns around and said, no, you really haven't. They said it's our right. our inalienable right that we want to improve our nuclear capabilities. And
they say it's permitted for peaceful
Correct.
energy purposes, not for the proliferation
and
of nuclear weapons.
But this nonsense has been going on for 20 years. Nobody seems to know, and then they call in people to go in and independent inspectors, and the inspectors say, no, they're not enriching anything for a bomb, and Trump turns around and says, yes, they are, no, we're not. And so, basically, the Iranians, the spokesperson, who is Iravani, said that, look, we're going to keep on doing this. We're going to do it peacefully, and we also want to have some sort of a peace agreement. So, and it's a real shame because, Tehran is a very vibrant city, and the people there are, from what I understand, are quite nice and peace-loving and that sort of thing. So
we were trying to get some definitive truth out of somebody here on exactly what was or what did happen. But of course, the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General, much travelled, Rafael Grossi, into some really of the most difficult parts of the world, is actually in Iran, but cannot get access to Iran's nuclear facilities as things stand. Also, of course, there is a little bit of concern about threats from the Iranian government on Rafael Grossi's safety, although the UN envoy who you just quoted was denying that fact. But at the moment, will we and when will we get some definitive
get the truth
on what did happen?
Yeah, what happened yesterday was Trump said that Iran was saying that they had moved 400 kilograms on 60% enriched uranium ahead of the strikes to get it out of harm's way. And Trump is saying, no, that didn't happen, or at least he doesn't believe that happened.
He didn't see the same photo of the trucks that are leaving the facility, obviously.
Yeah, he said that
we don't know what was on
them. Exactly, we don't know what was on them. It's amazing what they can shoot from that long distance, but there was a lot of question about what were in the trucks when the trucks were being moved. And the Washington Post reported yesterday that the U.S. obtained intercepted Iranian communications in which senior Iranian officials remarked that the damage from the attack was not as destructive and extensive as they had anticipated.
Yeah, but that could also be manufactured. So
correct.
I don't know.
We don't. We really don't know where the truth is on this thing.
And to be honest, I'm not quite sure. We used to be a little bit more sure of the truth coming out of the United States, but these days we're not.
Right.
I mean, you much as believe the truth from the Iranians as you can from the Americans, I'm afraid.
Well, it was.
As somebody from outside the country, we just
absolutely
don't know anymore.
No, absolutely true. And a week ago, we were talking about the explosion and the bunker bomb that hopefully that they say destroyed them completely, but now it looks like that may not be the case. So I don't know. Well, I hope the truth comes out eventually, but this back and forth. It's true, it's not true, it's true, it's not true, is, as I say, it's exhausting.
I really do hope that Donald Trump's aspirations for a Nobel Peace Prize do come to some kind of fruition, because that will mean there will be, a lot of peace in the places around the planet where we'd like to see it. He's now resorted to brokering an agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda because he doesn't seem to be able to sort out Bibi or sort out Vlad.
Yeah, so he just moves on. What can I? He's so hungry for a Nobel Peace Prize. He's looking for any sort of dispute that's going on. And I don't know that there was a dispute between the Republic of Congo and Rwanda, but apparently Trump says he's brokered a deal resulting in the U.S. getting a lot of the mineral rights in the process.
It's a long ongoing conflict, some 30-odd years.
Yeah, it has been, but all of a sudden he's sticking his nose in that.
He wants mineral rights again.
Yeah, he's really big on the mineral rights. He loves that, but he wants to get the mineral rights in response to his becoming involved. I don't know what's going to happen there, but certainly that one of the people with the Congo said, there's no doubt that the road ahead will not be easy, but with the continued support of the U.S. and other partners, we'll believe that the turning point has been reached, but also that there has been a great deal of uncertainty about previous agreements being put into place. So I don't think there's a lot of trust. I don't think there's a lot of
a huge amount of casualties.
Yeah, like millions of people have lost their lives in Congo over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
So.
All right,
Anyhow.
on to Tom Tillis then, and we did mention about one of those senators not going for re-election after a clash with Trump over the big, beautiful bill. In North Carolina, Tom Tillis, he's just gone, right, okay, I don't care what you do, what you say, I'm just not going to run again.
Yeah, he turned around and said, anybody who knows me knows that I've been saying, oh, this really isn't the job for me. I'm not enjoying being that. But that sounds like false, like a false statement. Like,
sorry, you fell into being a senator.
Exactly. Like I didn't mean to be running for this job. And he has not been in the Senate for a long time. He is a 2-term senator. Okay. North Carolina has turned into a swing state to a certain extent, and so.
He said it wasn't a hard choice, but at least he stood up. He stood up about those
did.
changes to Medicare.
Yeah, but he did. He voted against the big bill, and he spoke out against it. And Trump immediately turned around and said, well, I'm going to take you out because of this, and how dare you...
Big mistake in capitals.
Big mistake. How dare you disagree with me? I'm going to ruin your life, blah, blah, blah. And the other person who voted against the bill is Rand Paul from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that this seat doesn't come up till 2026. It's not that he's resigning. It's just that he's not going to be running for the part. But one thing that everybody needs to know is that the person who now is being put up for the and supported by Trump is
for the Republican seat.
For the Republican seat, and which has a really good chance.
Her name finish with Trump.
Her name might finish with Trump. It's Laura Trump, who won't back down.
Okay.
Yeah, so she is supposedly interested in running for that seat.
It's Tiffany, right?
The one good news, and she is a North Carolina native. She said she's strongly considering jumping in the race, but there is a strong candidate being mounted by the Republicans, a former governor named Roy Cooper. So no matter what happens in 2026. One of the states to watch is going to be North Carolina. It's going to be kind of a tough one. You're just not going to have Tom Tillis to kick around. And I don't think he was a terribly strong voice in the Senate. I don't think he was. It was a big thing. He had enough. You know.
Fair enough. Tiffany is Marla Maples' daughter, right? Donald Trump.
Laura is.
It's Tiffany, isn't it?
No, Tiffany Trump is Trump's natural daughter by Marla Maples. Laura Trump is a daughter-in-law.
Right, okay. I thought it was Tiffany that was going to run for North Carolina.
No. It's Laura Trump.
All right, okay.
And she's going to be running. She is Trump's daughter-in-law, and she's considering things. So,
all right. Apparently has run some campaigns in North Carolina, Tiffany. Okay, fair enough. On to our next story this afternoon. We're going to get through them all. I don't know if we are. Let's talk about Mamdani, new name for probably most of our listeners, but may well be in a serious position in New York, unless Trump has anything to do with it.
Mamdani won the Democratic primary, and what you need to know is New York City skews 6-1 Democratic over Republican. So whoever wins the Democratic primary is probably going to be elected mayor. The last Republican mayor was Michael Bloomberg, and he served 3 terms with distinction, I might add. I think overall his polling was great. People thought he was just a great mayor.
Well, I think everybody thought that Andrew Cuomo, who was going for it, was going to be great as well, but he won't change his idea or his policy. So
no.
He's pushed himself out of the race, really.
He really did, and if you dig down deep into why he lost, apparently he didn't make a lot of public appearances. No. He dodged the press because he's got a very, how shall we say, cloudy background. You know, he got.
It's not fit for New York, man.
He got.
That was a fit for a New York man.
New Yorkers are really tough, but I'll tell you something: their BS meter is pretty good.
There's been a lot of promises from Zohran Mamdani, though, hasn't there?
Yeah,
a lot of promises.
Yeah, the free bus rides, and they're going to freeze the cost of living freeze the cost of apartments. I'm sorry. And so, he's making a lot lot of promises. And
basically, Trump just says, "Okay, if you New Yorkers, you vote him in, I'm not going to give you any more money anymore."
Yeah. They basically assume that if he wins,
not he's messing with elections or anything.
Trump said, "Hey, if you step out of line, I'm going to pull all the funding for the city. It's like his hatred of Democrats, his hatreds of anybody that leans a little bit to the left is so intense. It's a bit shocking, that you would do that for such people.
There was somebody else who might be running in for office. Eric Trump has said he might run for president when his father's term ends. We haven't got time to do the detail, but also I like this. Last time Trump told us it will be 2 weeks. That was when he then went and bombed Iran the next day or near enough.
Yeah.
He's saying that there's a TikTok buyer that he'll reveal in about 2 weeks. Does that mean it'll sell tomorrow?
That means it'll be revealed that you now own TikTok.
Oh, my Lord.
We're gonna lay it out.
Our U.S. correspondent, Rich Reynolds, here every week. I know we moved it to a Monday, but we'll be back to normal again soon.
See you Tuesday.
Thank you very much indeed. Take care.
Adios.